Hi Vikram, I finally have you onto the show. We have been talking about this for quite some time,
Been a
and
really long time.
now a lot of people might be wondering, ki, why am I getting people only from Christ University to the show right now? But the talent just does not end. There is so much talent in our university specifically, so have to
Absolutely.
extract that first before we move forward. But more than that, I have known you for quite some time and I've seen the work you have been doing. And a lot of what I'm doing right now has been inspired by the work you have done. So thank you so much for being here. So, Vikram, let's just get straight into our discussion today. But before we do that, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. So I'm a 20-year-old photographer. I was born and brought up in Bangalore, and that's where I have studied my entire life. I started from a school called Cathedral High School, then I moved on to Christ, and I'm still in Christ. Um, the city has given me everything I have at the moment. The city, the places I've been, the experiences that I've had. It's all from these small things that I've gotten, right. And I wholeheartedly thank Christ today for the first time on an open public platform, because I am here today because of what I've learned at Christ. It could be a very common thing to hear, but it's also a very special thing for me, right. And to keep it short and sweet, uh, what I do is inspired by Bangalore. It's learned in Bangalore. It has grown in Bangalore. That's about me. That's it.
Bangalore, it is.
It's hardcore Bangalore.
Hmm. Vikram, so today's podcast is around photography.
Yeah.
So let's get into your journey. Um, when you started this journey as being a photographer, how did you figure out that this is your passion? Was there like a aha moment where you were like, dude, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Um, there might have been a couple actually. So when I first, um, the first ever picture that I made, right, was off of my terrace. It was a beautiful evening. It was a beautiful sunset. I'm sure you know how beautiful Bangalore sunsets can get.
Yeah,
You
the
get
best.
variations. You get the blues, the oranges, the reds. Sometimes I've experienced greens in the sky, right. And that's the first picture I clicked, and thereon I started doing that more often. And then I first held a camera in my hand in about October 2016, and it I didn't do anything. All I did was, just hold the camera, and I clicked a few pictures, and I realized that it's just so precious to create a moment of someone. Because that day, I had people who I didn't know came to me and tell me that, hey, please send that picture to me, right? So when that happened, I realized how important making a good picture is, how important it is to create a picture which will have an impact on you. It'll create a memory for you, right? And that's where I realized that this is something I need to keep doing. And then I started doing this. I started practicing this more regularly. I started taking images of more sunsets to begin with, and then I headed on to the streets of Bangalore. Like I said earlier, I am inspired by Bangalore, and that's what I mean when I say inspired by Bangalore. I love street photography. It's because I show you what I see, right? And that's when I realized that it is the truest form of this art, because what I see is what I'm showing you, and there's nothing different. So I'm just showing you a true representation of what I see and what my camera sees, right? And I don't, and I think to show people something which tells a story for itself is critical. And that's when I knew that if there is something that I truly love, and if there's something that I truly want to take forward, it has to be this, because I am narrating a story without saying a single word. I might be spending hours to get that right, but I need to remember that it's a story without a single word in it, right? And that's when I knew that that's basically it about how I want to keep going and probably have the rest of my life with this art form.
Yeah, dude. I think with every creator that has come about, there's always been this hour moment that I just want to create content because
Yeah.
this is the way I want to tell my story. And but right now I've seen that there are a lot of people who want to pursue photography, but there are a lot of societal pressures. There are a lot of taboos around photography. When you started out with your journey and during your journey, what were the type of challenges you faced?
Okay.
There too many?
I will tell you of something I recently faced. So I was in at a shoot a couple of days ago, and I wasn't referred to as a photographer. I was called a cameraman at that event and shoot, right? And that is the worst form of societal pressure one can face, because they do not look at the art that goes into it. You have a camera, hence you're a cameraman. You're not a photographer, you're not an artist anymore.
Hmm.
You are a cameraman to the society. And to prove to society that doing photography is not just being a cameraman, because I would say cameramen are people who are, shooting movies and TV shows, and, who are handling, like, who are just there for the camera, right? But being called a cameraman was the biggest explosion moment. Like, oh, stop. Right. So, societal pressure is intense. Like, the questions that I've heard from people um, go from, like, how are you going to earn? Or is this enough for you to make money? Or, will you get a job? Did you study to get here? Will you have to study to get somewhere? Oh, you'll be a wedding photographer. Basically, to the society, photography is just wedding photography, right? They do not look at the other aspects which are involved in it.
Hmm.
So society doesn't really understand what's going into this as an art form, and that is the biggest pressure, I would say, because you're creating art which a major part of the society, at least in India, a major part of the society doesn't understand. So to fight that, to prove yourself, and to get over it is the biggest challenge. And I still fight it. I fight it even today.
Vikram, but when you started out, let's when did you start with photography? Like when did you get into it?
Uh, 2016 October, and 4 years after that is when I got my first ever um, pre-wedding gig, which would be my
Four
first
years
ever.
later.
Yeah, 4 years later.
So it took you 4 years to get your first gig.
First gig, like an actual gig. I have done a few free collaborations, and everything that an artist would have to do on the way to get somewhere. Like, hey, do you want to free collaborate? And at that point, you don't have work, you don't have experience. All you're looking for is someone to give you work. And if they say free collab, you say yes. I will do it for you, right? um so I've done a lot of those. I've spent 8 hours on a shoot for 500 rupees. Like, back in like 11, 12 grade, someone paid me 500, and I'm like, well,
Cool.
that's a week
Just
of
give it a shot.
expenses.
Yeah.
I really didn't care about, the time that went into it. All I saw is like 500 rupees. Okay, I'm sorted for a week to spend money now, right? But 4 years, to be precise, it took me exactly 4 years, like October 2016 to October 2020. 4 years later is when I first got my proper paid. Even the paid is not an important part, but the first proper gig that I got was in October 2020. So 4 years, yeah.
So it was a 4 year grind. But a lot of times when we are young, right? At that point of time, we are probably chasing after money because that's how we associate our success in our society.
Yep.
But what we do not see is that money is usually the byproduct. The experience and the grind that goes out to create that content is what really matters, and you have to work for that.
Yeah,
Can you tell me
absolutely.
a story on to what was that grind like when you were probably 17 and hustling?
All right. So I have got a lot of my experience. As our parents would have told, colleges don't teach you a lot, but the streets do, right? Um,
Hmm.
you have to become street smart to not be conned by people. You have to live a street life to know what it's like. I have done both. I have lived the college life, and side by side, I was living the street life when I was doing my when I was hardcore into street photography. I still call myself a street photographer, despite the various amount of various type of genres that I cover. I still associate myself to street photography because that's my idea of photography, right? Um, so at the end of the day, the grind is just there were days when I was in college at 6 in the morning. I was practicing for theater and other things till like 8:30, 8:45 in the morning, have breakfast at 8:50, go to class at 9, get done with class by 4, practice till 6:30 again. So that's a comfortable 12-hour period spent on campus, and now I have just 12 hours left. Out of those 12 hours, I used to spend 6 hours sleeping, 3 hours out on the street making images, almost 2 to 3 times a week.
How old were
In
you
the
that
first,
time?
it was the first year of the university. I
Okay,
was
so
just 18. I was
19, 18,
18,
19,
18. I was
18,
just 18.
18.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And at 18, I was spending 15 to 16 hours outside the house, doing college, doing theater, doing photography, and managing assignments, trying to get food from, like, in a tiny slot. I would try to manage my food, and just so many things. So the grind would not be one story, honestly, but this is one of those stories. I have done, I have so I on my left hand I have a scar which I got while I was chasing a particular picture in Mumbai. I will send that picture over to you. So
Chasing a
that
picture.
yeah, so I was basically running behind a particular subject to get a picture,
Okay.
and I was at the beach side. It was like a rocky beach at Bandra, right? So I was there, and I was just, I was actually running, and I forgot one rule about running in rocks at a beach, right? Rocks get slippery,
Hmm.
and I got a shot, and I was still trying to, like, I think I can do better. I think I can do better because I had the vision of that picture which I didn't get. So I was running, and 2 minutes later, I was down on the ground. I had a massive cut here. It was bleeding, and I'm just sitting there. A couple of my friends were with me, and they're like, "Bro, what just happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I was just trying to chase or something." So, this cut still reminds me of how things can get when you're trying to. You have a particular vision. I didn't care. I didn't care. I fell down. My first instinct was to throw my hand up in which my camera was. So my right hand was high up in the air with my camera up there. I didn't even look at my hand when I stood up. I'm like, okay, my camera is fine. And then I look at my hand. I'm like, oh shit, it's bleeding. So, I have done these things just to get the right thing out for myself. And even today, the grind never stops. Like, I'm still, I am in Chennai with my entire family, but I'm still finishing up work and getting multiple things done in terms of photography. I created my website, so I'm trying to
Hmm.
keep
Wait,
getting
wait,
that better.
before you say anything else, the website that you just launched, I have one word for it. Wow. Wow. I have seen I from the first picture to the last one. It was absolutely amazing. I loved the art that was put out there.
Thank you so much, my man.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm constantly trying to not stop. Even when we had online classes over the last year, I was at multiple shoots. Like every time I was shooting, I had one of my earbuds in my ear and my camera in my hand, and I'm trying to figure out if I should be paying attention to the class or if I should be paying attention to getting the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
image.
Just checking up whether attendance is good enough. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's just these are the things, like, plus coming from Christ, how important attendance is, but also on
Yeah.
the other hand, I knew how important these things would be for me in the long run, right? So I was constantly trying to
Manage.
battle, not even manage. I was
Okay.
trying to battle these things, like, should I not, should I take this up, should I not take this up, and stuff like that. So if it's about the hustle, it's not one story, it's not one word, it's a long thing. It goes on till the end. I mean, even if you reach where you wanted to, you still should hustle, because if you stop, you're dead. Like, khatam tumhara.
Dude, what is it with photographers and taking like 100 pictures, and out of that you only get one picture, right? Like what really goes on in the post production of photography, that at the end of it you realize that I'm glad that I took 100 pictures and I have
Yeah.
something to work it.
Yeah. All right. So I'll tell you this, out of the 100 pictures, right, if I show it to an ordinary person who's not a photographer or who doesn't have a creative vision enough,
Hmm.
out of those 100, that person will probably end up liking 30 to 40 of those images, right? When I sit to shortlist those 100, I will probably bring it down to five, approximately five of those images, right? And they are very, very similar in terms of how they look, how they are composed. There might be a couple of differences. One has like shadows here, one doesn't. One is slightly brighter. In one, it is slightly clearer. One has the background which is more blurred or visible. So I select five, six of those images, and then I'm not gonna lie, it takes me 15 to 20 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes to select one or two of those five, six images to put them into post processing. So it takes an enormous amount of time before an image even goes into post processing. And after that, once it's into post production, what happens is, you try to tweak a few colors, a few light settings and stuff like that. And that's when you realize that, thank God I shot so many, because when you try to fix things, it's all. So I have a photo in front of me right now and I'm trying to fix it. um one wrong adjustment and you don't know how to fix it, right? You either have to start over or you have to look for an alternative image to get the right end result. Because for us, it's a vision. For me, if I see this, I need to shoot it a particular way. The end image has to be a particular way, right? Or I'm inspired by something, so I'm trying to achieve that. And if I don't, I will click edit click edit multiple times. So, it's a cycle. I will keep clicking, keep editing, keep clicking, keep editing till I don't get the image right. So I
It
have
has to goes to the wire all the time.
yeah.
Vikram, so I recently as well started out my photography journey, like and the journey has been very different. But the reason I started with photography, even before I started this podcast, was because I want to tell my story by through a medium of storytelling. And I think photography is one of the greatest medium to do so. But through the process, in just the past 4 5 months, I've realized that photography isn't simple, and you need to keep your eyes open at all times, because you will not know when that perfect picture, when the perfect capture will probably come in front of you. So as a photographer, what have been your learnings over the past few years, that are very relevant to what and where you are today?
I'm sure you can see how excited I am for this question. It's for two reasons. One is I have a short story for it, and the second is that your question sort of had its own answer to it. You need to be vigilant to what's happening around you. To be able to capture the right moment. And it's not easy. It does not come easy, right? So that itself answers the question. Because that's what photography is about, to know what's going on around you, right? So I have a tattoo on my right arm, which is basically a shirt, and it's a guy basically, right? So it's
Okay.
this, but the head is replaced by a camera.
Okay.
Okay. And so what happened in that tattoo accidentally is that it is not always inward facing. Even if my hand is like this, it is not inward facing, right? It is always the camera's lens is always pointing somewhere. And that is just a depiction of me, because every time I'm out somewhere, I am looking for a moment to capture. I'm trying to figure out if I can make an image out of it. And that's the biggest learning you need to have in photography. You need to be on your toes. You need to be ready for anything that comes your way. uh, let's say I'm shooting an event, or it's just a small birthday party that any photographer is probably shooting. You need to be aware to get one precious smile captured. You're at the birthday party of a 4-year-old. You will
Hmm.
see multiple smiles at that party, right? But you need to be aware, and um, you need to be conscious of things around you enough to get that smile, that gorgeous smile captured multiple times, not just once but multiple times, right? You're one guy at the party who's shooting images. You need to know your settings. You need to know what's going on around you, So you can click your shutter button and be confident that yes, this picture is what I imagined it to be. Um, so to you to be aware is the most important thing, but along with that, I would say uh, to be to be able to know what's going wrong with your art, to be able to know how you can improve is also one of the learnings that come on your way. Because I remember talking to you about this when you were making and editing pictures, right? I told you to keep trying till
Yeah.
till you feel good about the image,
Mm.
right? I cannot decide if that image is good, because at the end of the day, it's your image. I can give you a review of the image, I can tell you how the image looks, but I cannot tell you if that image satisfies you. You need to decide that, right? So that's something you need to know, that at the end of it, you need to know how to fix things that are going wrong. I can tell you that this is wrong, but I'm not going to tell you how to fix it, because that's your idea at the end of the day. That's your creativity at the end of the day. So these are the few learnings that come along the way. And last 4 years, that's been it.
So through the journey, you might have had some mentor. There might have been someone who probably, there might have been someone who probably inspired you. If not a mentor, there might have been someone who inspired you to uh, explore the art of photography. Um, can you tell me if there was anyone, and how did they really inspire you in the process?
So this is one of the things that I regret, being where I am. That is, I don't have a mentor as such. That's one of the biggest regrets that I have, is that I could not find a good mentor for myself, or I could not establish a contact with a photographer who would who would talk to me and tell me that this is this is how you can do things, or who I could personally learn from. I have learned from multiple photographers online. Aditya Venkatesh is one of my biggest inspirations in the way he does things, right? Simplest of the simplest things are looking gorgeous, because his vision is that what do I do every day, and I want to put that out as images. It's a form of documentary photography, and to be able to master that form the way this guy has done it is beautiful. The first time I saw him was at an under 25 summit, and my first reaction was like, I I
Thank you
didn't
for
have anything else to
existing.
do. As I, I think you know me enough to predict this, or to say this, that if I am in a social situation, the chances of me shivering or stammering are close to zero, right? But when I was standing next to that guy, I was shivering and stammering. I was not only shivering or stammering; I was doing both. I was like, so when I met him, I realized you know how much he has inspired me, because when you listen to him talk, he is so well aware of things that he is doing. Just the simplest of the things, but just so gorgeous, right? So my inspiration is Aditya Venkatesh, or as his Instagram goes, Audi Photography. But my mentor, I regret that I don't have any.
Dude, I recently did a podcast with this fabulous dude, Srijan, and we talked about the importance of having a vision.
Yeah.
Uh, as a photographer right now, what is your vision for your career, or for how you're looking at photography as a career in the future?
So the simplest thing that I want to do as a photographer is show people what I see. That's it, right? Um, at the moment, I still, like I said, I associate myself as a street photographer and nothing else. Career wise, photography is a very fluid market, very fluid option, right? I could be a wedding photographer, and with some practice, with some experience, I could switch over to product photography, or I could, if I'm a wedding photographer, I can possibly do maternity shoots very easily, because I'm doing pre-wedding shoots, right? So there's never one genre that you work in as a photographer. You try to maximize your art, because you want to be you want to have presence as a photographer. You want people to know you as a photographer, and it's hats off to the people who do it only by covering one genre. But if you excel at one, or if you do great at one, you can always um, merge your knowledge, or pass on your knowledge into other genres and make the best
Hmm.
out of it. So career wise, I still am at crossroads. Whether should I go this way or that way? But if I had to pick a particular form of photography as a career, I would possibly choose something to do with people, or people at where there are a lot of emotions being displayed. So let's say a
Hmm.
wedding, most probably a wedding. But on the other hand, when I said crossroads, this is what I meant. One is wedding photography, but the other hand is a completely different form, which is product photography. So I still haven't been able to decide, and I don't think that it's anything bad or wrong, because I have time, and I have the art in my hand, so I can do it. I can do things the way I want, and I can take them forward the way I want. So, still not decided on what I should do or what I shouldn't do.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think if you are just a 17-year-old or even a 20-year-old, you still can start out your photography journey through exploration, because you have to continuously explore to really understand what the art really requires out of you and what you actually learn from the art itself. Dude, but there is probably someone who is in the same shoe as we were a couple of years ago, or as you were, sorry, as a couple of years ago. What bit of advice would you want to give them onto how can they start with photography? And what were the few things you really thought or you really think that you wish you knew earlier, before you started your
All
journey?
right. I'll answer the second bit first about things I wish I knew. One is a mentor, right? Um, always try to have a mentor who can help you learn, who can help you understand, and who can help you ace it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a mentor, it's you don't get anywhere without someone's. Um, it's like your elders giving you a blessing, right? It's like your parents and
Mm.
grandparents are like they you know in at least a lot of Indian cultures, we believe in the fact that there's your parents' blessing, your grandparents' blessing, which is helping you through things, right? So it's the mentor also who works a similar way. They are a blessing in your life. They are continuing to bless you by sharing their knowledge and making you better,
Mm.
right? So that's the most important thing. That's something I don't have, and that's something I think any upcoming photographer should have. And I myself am on the look for someone who can be my mentor, someone who I can personally have a vibe with, and someone who I can learn more and more from on a regular basis. Second thing is, to answer the first half of the question, my advice to anyone out there is to be open to criticism about their work. As an artist, you cannot be possessive about what you did. You need to know that your art is subjective. Any form of art is subjective, right? A picture can be looked at in thousands of ways. It can have thousands of meaning. There could be a picture of a man walking on a road. Now, that's the picture, but the story could be why he is walking on the road. Is he old? Is he young? Is he mentally stable? Is he financially stable? There are so many things a picture can help you develop. So your story is most likely to be different from the story it is for me, right? And if someone is going to criticize your work, you should be open to take it, right? You should you you that's how you will learn. Like that's also the role of your mentor. He will criticize your work. Your mentor will just make it constructive criticism, whereas public outside will just be blunt, like, I don't
Mm.
like this.
I don't
No.
like this at all.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they're going to tell you, and you have no choice but to listen to them. So these are the two things: have a mentor and be open to criticisms at all points.
At all points of time. I think, dude, that really makes a lot of sense, because when you start out, that is something that you're fearing. What will people say? Will I be able to do this? Um, will I get the validation that I'm seeking for? Do not run after validation. Explore yourself through the process. You will get the validation that you need
Exactly.
through the process. And I've experienced the same thing. So I would as well probably give the same bit of advice. Just explore yourself through the
Yeah.
journey. Um, Trust me, when you click a good photograph and you edit it later, the feeling that you will get,
The
you yourself will know
satisfaction.
that you have come a long way. And you will only understand that after you explore. Vikram, we have talked about, you have talked about the lack of you having a mentor, but you have been in this space for the past 4 years. And at the end of every podcast, we have something called an impact program. Vikram, I know that you probably did not have a mentor yourself, but there are 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year, even 20-year-olds, or probably someone even older who is looking for mentorship onto what can they do next, how can they start out
Absolutely.
their photography journey, how can they start their exploration through the lens of a camera. So, Vikram, can you just tell the listeners what is this impact program going to be and how is it going to benefit
All
them?
right. So to start off, I'll tell you how this impact program is going to work, right? The duration and the end goal of this. So it's going to be a 7 day workshop slash course. Um, I wouldn't call it a workshop, honestly, or a course. I would just call it um, a place for artists to meet and engage in a
Hmm.
conversation to learn more, right? So it's going to be a 7 day scene basically, wherein you can click as many pictures as you want, and at the end of it you need to have four final images that you share with us, right? So for example, you are one of the people who signed up for the impact program. You have 7 days in your hand starting from today till Sunday, right? So your agenda is to click as many pictures as you want and to edit, select, edit, or not edit. That's absolutely your choice, right? But to only send in four images to us, and we will sit and review those images for you. We will have a conversation about these images, and we will tell you how good this image is from a outsider's perspective, because your perspective is best to you, but an outsider's perspective matters the most, right? A collective perspective, an individual perspective, like a society perspective and an individual perspective basically, right? So you will be given those reviews on the basis of how your image is, the composition, the color, the lighting, the framing, or how it could have been made better, or how it has already excelled the limits it could. As a picture, some pictures have a certain threshold that this is their best. Anything more or less, anything more would have spoiled it. There is room for more, but it would spoil the image, right? So
Yeah.
did you hit the threshold? Were you slightly off? Were you slightly above it? Okay. So these are the few things that we will discuss with the impact program. Now the benefits of this will firstly be that you will be able to take up constructive criticism, because that's what you're going to get. The second thing is going to be some form of decision making will be added to your skill. How and why, I will explain in the due course of time. But decision making will be one of the most important lessons that I also learned very late. I am still trying to get better at it. As a photographer, decision making is really important.
Dude, I don't
So
think decision making at any point of your life really, you'd never become a proficient at decision making at any point of your life. But yes, you need to be able to
yeah,
continuously
you
improve
cannot
in that
be
skill.
100% at making decisions, but you can always go from 0 to 50, right? Or
Hmm.
you can go from 10 to 50. It's still improvement, it's still growth. You cannot be absolutely right with every decision you make. That's not possible. But so some of these decisions that you make as a photographer are also very important, right? So decision making is going to be one of the other things that you will learn through the impact program. And the rest is the fact that it's just going to be a fun time. That's
Hmm.
assured. Nothing else, no seriousness, nothing. It's just going to be something fun, because for me it started off as fun and it still is fun. Other than the fact that you have to talk to clients, you have to deliver to their expectations, which I mean any profession has to do, right? But it still is fun. Shooting for me is fun. It's so much fun that I think I've told you about this, that I miss meals. I skip meals when I'm at a shoot, right? I left for a shoot at 7 in the morning. I've had one cup of milk and maybe a few biscuits at 7 in the morning. My next meal is going to be at 5 p.m. when it's a break or it's a backup, or maybe even 7 p.m. So I have realized how important it is to keep doing your best, to keep pushing yourself. And I think that also should be something you learn off the impact program in the time to come.
So, I would like to tell the listeners that the impact program is not restricted to your age. One. Secondly, even if you have never tried out the art of
Yeah,
photography, or if you have not felt that this is something that I'm interested in, you can still join the impact program because it's absolutely free. And you are just getting an opportunity to explore. So you just have to spend a couple of days exploring with Vikram, learning with the other panelists that we might have for the impact program. And together we can actually understand whether this is something you want to do in the future or not.
yeah,
So just join it so that you understand whether this is of your liking or not. But other than that, yeah, do you want to say something, Vikram?
yeah. More importantly, personally, okay, I love to talk to people who are new to the art form, right? So, if you even want to have a conversation about something regarding photography, and just want to try your hand at it, not even to get into the art form hardcore, but just to have, you know, uh, that experience up your sleeve, that I also tried to experiment with the camera, and for a fact that you could do it well, right? um, you're open, you should and must be a part of this. um, oh, one important thing: your equipment will not matter. You could have a phone, a camera, a digicam, any form of device with which helps you shoot and store. That's it. It could be a DSLR, it could be an SLR, it could be a phone, it could be a point and shoot, it could be anything, right? But what matters is what you want to show the world and what you want to experience, basically. Your experience matters the most. So don't worry about what you have as equipment. Worry about what you will not learn by missing out on this impact program.
Yeah. And personally, I have myself been mentored by Vikram. Even though we are of the same age, I have gone through the process of being mentored or have gotten the mentoring from Vikram when I started out with my journey. And I'm really grateful to him for that. And I'm sure that all of you will as well benefit through the process. You will benefit from Vikram and his experiences. So, Vikram, I think that's the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I think the conversation that we had was amazing. I think everyone who would have listened to you, who would have heard your story, might be inspired in some way or the other to probably start out their journey with photography. And
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much
much for
for
being here.
having me here. It has been a pleasure um, to share a few words about what I absolutely love. And just before we end this, I would like to say, the minute you said mentor, I had some form of goosebumps all over my body. Like, oh my god, oh
Yeah,
my god,
yeah. Just
four
sign
and a
up for
half
this.
years,
Sign
four
up
and
for
a
this
half
impact
years of this.
program to just show him what it means to be mentored by Vikram. Yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
So it's absolutely a thrill, and cannot wait to see the people who are gonna be with us at the Impact program. So let's see how that goes.
Cool. Thank you so much, Vikram.
Thank you so much.